In the bleak Arctic chill, Captain Anderson and his exhausted crew face the relentless grip of the ice, their ambitions threatened by nature's unforgiving hand. Despite weary bones and deep uncertainty, the men are driven forward by Anderson's singular promise: they will reach the North Pole. Whispers of doubt linger, but their fate is tied to a mission greater than themselves, a pursuit as perilous as it is historic. Yet beneath the surface turmoil, a deeper story stirs, a tale set in motion by the arrival of a wounded stranger, Victor Frankenstein, whose frozen presence carries both mystery and menace. The presence of a creature unlike any the men have ever imagined will soon pull them all into the vortex of Victor's tragic creation, reshaping the spirit and destiny of the expedition. Victor Frankenstein, the enigmatic newcomer, is welcomed aboard the Royal Danish ship Horisont after a vicious attack that leaves several men dead. As Anderson and his officers tend to Victor, the actual danger becomes evident: not a beast, but a being that defies death and sanity. Victor's warnings of an immortal pursuer echo throughout the ship, intensifying the crew's fear. Victor pleads for his own life, asking the captain to cast him onto the ice when the creature inevitably returns, a request rooted in both terror and resignation. In hushed tones, Victor reveals the depth of his burden. He is not only the hunted, but the creator of the monster stalking them, and the sins of his past are now threads in the tapestry of every man's fate aboard the Horizon. As the ship creaks under the polar night, Victor's memories unfurl. He recalls the lessons of his father, a surgeon and baron, whose command of both household and medicine shaped Victor's ambitions and spirit. In a household ruled by status, cold duty, and occasional warmth, Victor is raised with relentless precision. From anatomical lectures about the tricuspid valve's role to withering observations about emotionless tissue, Victor is shaped into a mind obsessed with answers, defiance, and the possibility of greater miracles that can only be seized by unyielding will and knowledge. Amidst the stern teachings, the bonds between Victor, his mother, and his brother William offer a brief sanctuary, but the shadow of paternal expectation looms ever larger. Tragedy soon disrupts the foundations of Victor's youth. His mother falls ill, her death plunging Victor into darkness and self-reproach. The loss hollows out the universe for Victor A. Void, both personal and metaphysical. He confronts his father with bitter accusations, questioning not only the reasons for her death, but the futility of human claim over mortality. In grief, Victor becomes resolute. He will conquer death, forging a new purpose out of heartbreak and a desire to surpass the limits of living and dying. Victor's vision intensifies as he leaves behind the remnants of his family's fortune and estate, embarking on a long academic odyssey that spans London and Edinburgh. Years of relentless pursuit in science and medicine follow, sharpening not only his intellect, but an insatiable drive. Victor's lectures challenge the boundaries of life and death, insisting to students that birth belongs to God, but death is a frontier fit for man's conquest. His ambition is unyielding defiance, not obedience, will bring miracles to humanity, even if it means moving beyond the boundaries established by God himself. Victor's theoretical work rapidly turns to practical experiment. His demonstrations carve up the body-combining limbs and brains from different corpses, channeling electric currents and Eastern notions of QI into the process. The results, startling and controversial, earn Victor both expulsion from academic circles and the permanent scrutiny of medical societies. Even as adversaries call his work an abomination, Victor remains stubborn. The future lies in understanding and controlling the spark that animates flesh. In Edinburgh, Victor forms alliances with influential figures like Heinrich Harlander, who recognizes both the brilliance and peril of Victor's experiments. Financial support and new laboratory resources arrive, but expectations mount, particularly surrounding his capacity to bring a whole body to life, transforming the impossible into reality. Family, reputation, and ambition intertwine, each pushing Victor closer to the edge. Yet as his circle expands, so too does his isolation. Alliances remain fragile, friendships fleeting, and love elusive. Victor's reunion with his brother William and the introduction of Elizabeth Harlander bring both hope and added complexity. The assembled family is marked by complicated dynamics. William, the calm breeze, counterbalances Victor, the storm cloud. Victor's relentless vision strains family ties, yet they reunite for a moment, each carrying unique burdens of expectation and memory. Within this sphere, Victor's work escalates, and the laboratory soon becomes a crucible for both scientific and personal transformation. Victor's philosophical debates and reflections deepen. In conversations about war, honor, and valor, the value of ideas is weighed against the brutal realities of blood and mud. The costs of pursuit, mainly when led by fools or dreamers, are revealed in the casualties that fill battlefields and the cold loneliness that follows failed ambitions. Victor's isolation grows, yet a sense of destiny calls him toward his final trial, forging life from death. An abandoned tower by a lake becomes ground zero for Victor's ultimate endeavor. With William and Harlander's help, the space is outfitted with battery banks, ice chambers, and laboratory equipment. Victor's quest for miracle currents and an access point to the lymphatic system focuses his efforts into a narrowing window of possibility. The pressures of war and limited resources hang overhead, forcing Victor to work quickly and without error. At the heart of Victor's experiment, the tension between science and faith is ever present. Conductors are swapped for pure silver, and the energy flow is recalibrated. The laboratory is alive with anticipation, but the loneliness of pursuit is palpable. As battles rage beyond the walls and fortunes dwindle, Victor continues his efforts undaunted by setbacks, unwavering in belief that he alone can create life from dead matter. The bond between Victor and Elizabeth surfaces, subtle but powerful. Their connection hints at deeper emotions waiting to surface, even as laboratory work takes precedence. Victor's dedication begins to yield results, yet the process is fraught with danger. Amid bursts of insight and setbacks, alliances are tested, and faith in the outcome fluctuates. The challenge of reconciling flawed human parts, erratic healing, and the unpredictable spark of consciousness drives Victor nearly to madness. The laboratory, both a place of progress and desolation, marks a decisive threshold beyond which Victor can no longer turn back. From the chaos of creation emerges Victor's monster, a being both wondrous and grotesque, grappling with a world of warmth, cold, light, and darkness for the first time. Victor assumes responsibility as its maker, teaching it to speak, to understand, and above all, to endure. Despite initial signs of progress, Victor is haunted by the realization that he failed to consider the consequences of creation. This existential void leaves both creator and creation searching for meaning at the edge of the earth. As the creature's development continues, family and friends visit the laboratory, each reacting differently to its presence. The boundaries between science, conscience, and morality become increasingly blurred. Victor confronts the truth that something more than intelligence animates the creature, perhaps a soul, maybe an anomaly. Elizabeth, William, and Harlander's perspectives reveal the depth of their own fears and hopes for Victor, as well as for the future the monster represents. Moments of crisis arise as the monster confronts its own pain and identity. Amid broken relationships and heated revelations, Victor's experiment becomes a trial of endurance. Betrayals and apologies follow each new complication. Evidence mounts that a miracle has come to pass, but at a terrible cost. As the monster struggles with memory and self-awareness, he begins quoting lines from ancient stories, scripture, and poetry, ultimately arriving at an agonizing self-revelation. He is the child of charnel houses, assembled from the dead, suffering alone in search of meaning. The monster's journey unfolds with encounters that teach him about language, families, love, and literature. As he discovers stories like Adam and Eve, the collapse of Babylon, and Paradise Lost, his ache for belonging intensifies. Reading and companionship with a wise but blind older man offer solace, but the monster's sense of otherness, his knowledge that he is fundamentally unlike humanity, lingers. He grapples with envy, despair, and the burden of immortality, demanding from his creator a companion who could share his fate. Victor's confrontation with the monster reaches its zenith. The beast, now articulate and self-aware, pleads for the creation of another like him. Driven by longing, rage, and loneliness, the monster demands the right to exist, to reproduce, and to love a prospect Victor recoils from, fearing the perpetuation of an obscenity upon the earth. Their philosophies clash, each wielding willpower, pain, and the notion of justice in equal measure. The monster, denied love, promises instead a lifetime of rage. A violent reckoning emerges. Elizabeth is attacked, tragedy begets tragedy, and Victor and the monster's destinies entwine irrevocably. The grief over Elizabeth's death and the destruction of all that Victor cherished becomes a crucible for final transformation. Love, loss, and the urge to be both lost and found shape the endgame of their journey. The weight of eternal tragedy settles, both men made immortal by suffering and memory. Victor and the monster's trajectories finally converge upon the frozen wastelands, broken, discarded, spent. The beast, inexorably tied to Victor's fate, bleeds and suffers, yet cannot die. His rage turns to regret and ultimately to a quiet plea for forgiveness and meaning. The tide of life now carries Victor away, leaving the monster to reflect on hope, rage, and the sense of existence in solitude. As the expedition faces its final reckoning with both the supernatural and the consequences of human ambition, Captain Anderson orders the crew to man the sails and turn for home. By journey's end, the survivors find liberation, not merely from ice and danger, but from the relentless chase for unnatural power, absolution, or immortality. In the story's last chapter, humanity is reclaimed in humility and acceptance. Weapons are lowered, burdens released, and the dream of return realized. The Arctic expedition becomes a parable of creation and consequence, belief and suffering, and ultimately the redemptive power of choosing life above relentless ambition. Homeward bound, the Horizont sails at last, not only towards safe harbor, but toward the possibility of grace in the wake of suffering, forgiveness amid irreversible losses, and a future shaped by the hard-earned wisdom of Victor's tragic legacy. The Arctic silence spreads behind them, carrying the echoes of dreams, despair, and spectral figures who once haunted the ice.